Hi guys. As many of you must know, especially the Indic wing crowd that is the core follower of my channel, knows that Aurobindo Ghosh, Rishi Aurobindo, gave a speech called the Uttarpara speech. He gave it in a place called Uttarpara in West Bengal, and that is really famous and legendary. But I have not read it, I have not heard it, and I only know it's very famous, and everyone has been recommending it to me. And ever since some people came to know that I am reading that book called The Life Divine, they have been saying that please read Uttarpara speech as well. And since on 15th August, which is Rishi Aurobindo's birthday as well, it was his 150th birthday, and the Prime Minister also mentioned his name. So Sanjay Dixit was also discussing some things from the Uttarpara speech, which got me really intrigued. So today I'm going to read that speech. Let's see what the fuss is all about. Let's see what awesome things he wrote. It was given in 1909. When I was asked to speak to you at the annual meeting of your Sabha, it was my intention to say a few words about the subject chosen for today, the subject of the Hindu religion. I do not know now whether I shall fulfill that intention, for as I sit here, there came into my mind a word that I have to speak to you, a word that I have to speak to the whole of the Indian nation. It was spoken first to myself in jail, and I have come out of jail to speak it to my people. It was more than a year ago that I came here last. When I came, I was not alone. One of the mightiest prophets of nationalism sat by my side. It was he who then came out of the seclusion to which God had sent him. So that in the silence and solitude of his cell he might hear the word that he had to say. He had to say. He meaning God. He with capital H. It was he that you came in your hundreds to welcome. Now he is far away, separated from us by thousands of miles. Others whom I was accustomed to find working beside me are absent. The storm that swept over the country has scattered them far and wide. It is I this time who have spent 1 year in seclusion, and now that I come out, I find all changed. One who always sat by my side and was associated in my work is a prisoner in Burma. Another is in the north, rotting in detention. I looked around when I came out. I looked around for those to whom I had been accustomed to look for counsel and inspiration. I did not find them. There was more than that. When I went to jail, the whole country was alive with the cry of Bande Mataram, alive with the hope of a nation, the hope of millions of men who had newly risen out of degradation. When I came out of jail, I listened for that cry, but there was instead a silence. A hush had fallen on the country, and men seemed bewildered. For instead of God's bright heaven full of the vision of the future that had been before us, there seemed to be overhead a leaden sky, from which human thunders and lightnings rained. No man seemed to know which way to move, and from all sides came the question, what shall we do next? What is there we can do? I too did not know which way to move. I too did not know what was the next thing to be done. But one thing I knew, that as it was the almighty power of God which had raised the cry, that hope, so it was the same power which had sent down that silence. He who was in the shouting and the movement was also in the pause and the hush. He has sent it upon us, so that the nation might draw back for a moment and look into itself and know His will. I have not been disheartened by that silence, because I had been made familiar with silence in my prison, and because I knew it was in the pause and the hush that I had myself learned this lesson through the long year of my detention. When Bipin Chandra Pal came out of jail, he came with a message, and it was an inspired message. I remember the speech he made here. It was a speech not so much political as religious in its bearing and intention. He spoke of his realization in jail, of God within us all, of the Lord within the nation, and in his subsequent speeches also he spoke of a greater than ordinary force in the movement and a greater than ordinary purpose before it. Now I also meet you again. I also come out of jail, and again it is you of Uttarpara who are the first to welcome me. Not at a political meeting, but at a meeting of a society for the protection of our religion. That message which Bipin Chandra Pal received in Buxar jail, God gave to me in Alipur. That knowledge He gave to me day after day during my 12 months of imprisonment, and it is that which He has commanded me to speak to you now that I have come out. I knew I would come out. The year of detention was meant only for a year of seclusion and of training. How could anyone hold me in jail longer than was necessary for God's purpose? He had given me a word to speak and a work to do, and until that word was spoken, I knew that no human power could hush me. Until that work was done, no human power could stop God's instrument, however weak that instrument might be or however small. Now that I have come out, even in these few minutes, a word has been suggested to me which I had no wish to speak. The thing I had in mind, He has thrown from it, and what I speak is under an impulse and a compulsion. When I was arrested and hurried to the Lal Bazar Hajat, Hajat meaning in Bengali a lockup. When I was arrested and hurried to the Lal Bazar Hajat, I was shaken in faith for a while, for I could not look into the heart of His intention. Therefore I faltered for a moment and cried out in my heart to Him, "What is this that has happened to me?" I believed that I had a mission to work for the people of my country, and until that work was done, I should have Thy protection. Why then am I here and on such a charge? A day passed, and a second day, and a third, when a voice came to me from within, "Wait and see." Then I grew calm and waited. I was taken from Lal Bazar to Alipur and was placed for 1 month in a solitary cell apart from men. There I waited day and night for the voice of God within me, to know what He had to say to me, to learn what I had to do. In this seclusion, the earliest realization, the first lesson, came to me. I remembered then that a month or more before my arrest, a call had come to me to put aside all activity, to go into seclusion and to look into myself, so that I might enter into closer communion with Him. I was weak and could not accept the call. My work was very dear to me, and in the pride of my heart, I thought that unless I was there, it would suffer or even fail and cease. Therefore I would not leave it. It seemed to me that He spoke to me again and said, "The bonds you had not strength to break, I have broken for you, because it is not my will, nor was it ever my intention that should continue. I have another thing for you to do, and it is for that I have brought you here, to teach you what you could not learn for yourself and to train you for my work." Then He placed the Gita in my hands. His strength entered into me, and I was able to do the sadhan of the Gita. I was not only to understand intellectually, but to realize what Sri Krishna demanded of Arjuna and what He demands of those who aspire to do His work, to be free from repulsion and desire, to do work for Him without the demand for fruit, to renounce self-will and become a passive and faithful instrument in His hands, to have an equal heart for high and low, friend and opponent, success and failure, yet not do His work negligently. I realized what the Hindu religion meant. We speak often of the Hindu religion, of the Sanatan Dharma, but few of us really know what that religion is. Other religions are preponderatingly religions of faith and profession, but the Sanatan Dharma is life itself. It is a thing that has not so much to be believed as lived. This is the Dharma that for the salvation of humanity was cherished in the seclusion of this peninsula from old. It is to give this religion that India is rising. She does not rise as other countries do, because self or when she is strong, to trample on the weak. She does not rise for herself or to trample on the weak. She is rising to shed the eternal light entrusted to her over the world. India has always existed for humanity and not for herself, and it is for humanity and not for herself that she must be great. Therefore, this was the next thing He appointed to me. He made me realize the central truth of the Hindu religion. He turned the hearts of my jailers to me, and they spoke to the Englishman in charge of the jail. He is suffering in his confinement. Let him at least walk outside of his cell for half an hour in the morning and in the evening. So it was arranged. And it was while I was walking that His strength again entered into me. I looked at the jail that secluded me from men, and it was no longer by its high walls that I was imprisoned. No, it was Vasudeva who surrounded me. I walked under the branches of the tree in front of my cell, but it was not the tree. I knew it was Vasudeva. It was Sri Krishna whom I saw standing there, and holding over me his shade. I looked at the bars of my cell, the very grating that did duty for a door, and again I saw Vasudeva. It was Narayana who was guarding and standing sentry over me. Or I lay on the coarse blankets that were given me for a couch and felt the arms of Sri Krishna around me, the arms of my friend and lover. This was the first use of the deeper vision he gave me. I looked at the prisoners in the jail, the thieves, the murderers, the swindlers, and as I looked at them I saw Vasudeva. It was Narayana whom I found in these darkened souls and misused bodies. Amongst these thieves and dacoits, there were many who put me to shame by their sympathy, their kindness, their humanity triumphant over such adverse circumstances. One I saw among them especially who seemed to me a saint, a peasant of my nation who did not know how to read and write, an alleged dacoit sentenced to 10 years of rigorous imprisonment, one of those whom we look down upon in our pharisaical pride of class as chotolok, a menial person. Once more he spoke to me and said, "Behold the people among whom I have sent you to do a little of my work. This is the nature of the nation I am raising up and the reason why I raised them." When the case opened in the lower court and we were brought before the magistrate, I was followed by the same insight. He said to me, "When you were cast into jail, did not your heart fail and did not you cry out to me, 'Where is thy protection?' Look now at the magistrate. Look now at the prosecuting counsel." I looked, and it was not the magistrate whom I saw. It was Vasudeva. It was Narayana who was sitting there on the bench. I looked at the prosecuting counsel, and it was not the counsel for the prosecution that I saw. It was Sri Krishna who sat there. It was my lover and friend who sat there and smiled. "Now do you fear?" he said. "I am in all men, and I overrule their actions and their words. My protection is still with you, and you shall not fear. This case which is brought against you, leave it in my hands. It is not for you. It was not for the trial that I brought you here, but for something else. The case itself only is a means of my work and nothing more." Afterwards, when the trial opened in the sessions court, I began to write many instructions for my counsel as to what was false in the evidence against me, and on what points the witnesses might be cross-examined. Then something happened which I had not expected. The arrangements which had been made for my defense were suddenly changed, and another counsel stood there to defend me. He came unexpectedly, a friend of mine. But I did not know he was coming. You have all heard the name of the man who put away from him all other thoughts and abandoned all his practice, who sat up half the night day after day for months and broke his health to save me. Srijut Chittaranjan Das. When I saw him, I was satisfied. But I still thought it necessary to write instructions. Then all that was put from me, and I had the message from within. "This is the man who will save you from the snares put around your feet. Put aside those papers. It is not you who will instruct him. I will instruct him." From that time I did not myself speak a word to my counsel about the case or give a single instruction, and if ever I was asked a question, I always found that my answer did not help the case. I had left it to him, and he took it entirely into his hands, with what result you know. I knew all along what he meant for me, for I heard it again and again. Always I listened to the voice within. "I am guiding, therefore fear not. Turn to your own work for which I have brought you to jail, and when you come out, remember never to fear, never to hesitate. Remember that it is I who am doing this, not you nor any other. Therefore, whatever clouds may come, whatever dangers and sufferings, whatever difficulties, whatever impossibilities, there is nothing impossible, nothing difficult. I am in the nation and its uprising, and I am Vasudeva, I am Narayana, and what I will shall be, not what others will. What I choose to bring about, no human power can stay." Meanwhile, he had brought me out of solitude and placed me among those who had been accused along with me. "You have spoken much today of my self-sacrifice and devotion to my country. I have heard that kind of speech ever since I came out of jail, but I hear it with embarrassment, with something of pain. For I know my weakness. I am a prey to my own faults and backslidings. I was not blind to them before, and when they all rose up against me in seclusion, I felt them utterly. I knew then that I, the man, was a mass of weakness, a faulty and imperfect instrument, strong only when a higher strength entered into me. Then I found myself among these young men, and in many of them I discovered a mighty courage, a power of self-effacement in comparison with which I was simply nothing. I saw one or two who were not only superior to me in force and character, very many were that, but in the promise of that intellectual ability on which I prided myself. He said to me, "This is the young generation, the new and mighty nation that is arising at my command. They are greater than yourself. What have you to fear? If you stood aside or slept, the work would still be done. If you were cast aside tomorrow, here are the young men who will take up your work and do it more mightily than you have ever done. You have only got some strength from me to speak a word to this nation which will help to raise it." This was the next thing he told me. Then a thing happened suddenly, and in a moment, I was hurried away to the seclusion of a solitary cell. What happened to me during that period I am not impelled to say, but only this, that day after day, he showed me his wonders and made me realize the utter truth of the Hindu religion. I had had many doubts before. I was brought up in England amongst foreign ideas and an atmosphere entirely foreign. About many things in Hinduism I had once been inclined to believe that it was all imagination, that there was much of dream in it, much that was delusion and maya. But now day after day, I realize in the mind, I realized in the heart, I realized in the body the truths of the Hindu religion. They became living experiences to me, and things were opened to me which no material science could explain. When I first approached him, it was not entirely in the spirit of the bhakta. It was not entirely in the spirit of the jnani. I came to him long ago in Baroda, some years before the Swadeshi began, and I was drawn into the public field. When I approached God at that time, I hardly had a living faith in him. The agnostic was in me, the atheist was in me, the skeptic was in me, and I was not absolutely sure that there was a God at all. I did not feel his presence. Yet something drew me to the truth of the Vedas, the truth of the Gita, the truth of the Hindu religion. I felt there must be a mighty truth somewhere in this yoga, a mighty truth in this religion based on the Vedanta. So when I turned to the yoga and resolved to practice it and find out if my idea was right, I did it in this spirit and with this prayer to him: "If thou art, then thou knowest my heart. Thou knowest that I do not ask for mukti. I do not ask for anything which others ask for. I ask only for strength to uplift this nation. I ask only to be allowed to live and work for this people whom I love and to whom I pray that I may devote my life." I strove long for the realization of yoga, and at last, to some extent, I had it. But in what I most desired, I was not satisfied. Then in the seclusion of the jail, of the solitary cell, I asked for it again. I said, "Give me thy adesh. I do not know what work to do or how to do it. Give me a message." In the communion of yoga, two messages came. The first message said, "I have given you a work and it is to help to uplift the nation. Before long, the time will come when you will have to go out of the jail. For it is not my will that this time either you should be convicted or that you should pass the time as others have to do in suffering for their country. I have called you to work, and that is the adesh for which you have asked. I give you the adesh to go forth and do my work." The second message came and it said, "Something has been shown to you in this year of seclusion, something about which you had your doubts, and it is the truth of the Hindu religion. It is this religion that I am raising up before the world. It is this that I have perfected and developed through the rishis, saints and avatars, and now it is going forth to do my work among the nations. I am raising up this nation to send forth my word. This is the Sanatan Dharma. This is the eternal religion which you did not really know before, but which I have now revealed to you. The agnostic and the skeptic in you have been answered, for I have given you proofs within and without you. physical and subjective, which have satisfied you. When you go forth, speak to your nation always this word, that it is for the Sanatan Dharma that they arise. I am giving them freedom for the service of the world. When therefore it is said that India shall rise, it is the Sanatan Dharma that shall rise. When it is said that India shall be great, it is the Sanatan Dharma that shall be great. When it is said that India shall expand and extend herself, it is the Sanatan Dharma that shall expand and extend itself all over the world. It is for the Dharma and by the Dharma that India exists. To magnify the religion means to magnify the country. I have shown you that I am everywhere and in all men and in all things, that I am in this movement, and I am not only working in those who are striving for the country, but I am working also in those who oppose them and stand in their path. I am working in everybody, and whatever men may think or do, they can do nothing but help on my purpose. They also are doing my work. They are not my enemies but my instruments. In all your actions, you are moving forward without knowing which way you move. You mean to do one thing and you do another. You aim at a result and your efforts subverse one that is different or contrary. It is Shakti that has gone forth and entered into the people. Since long ago I have been preparing this uprising, and now the time has come, and it is I who will lead to its fulfillment. This then is what I have to say to you. The name of your society is Society for the Protection of Religion. Well, the protection of the religion, the protection and upraising before the world of the Hindu religion, that is the work before us. But what is the Hindu religion? What is this religion which we call Sanatan, eternal? It is the Hindu religion only because the Hindu nation has kept it. Because in this peninsula it grew up in the seclusion of the sea and the Himalayas. Because in this sacred and ancient land it was given as a charge to the Aryan race to preserve through the ages. But it is not circumscribed by the confines of a single country. It does not belong peculiarly and forever to a bounded part of the world. That which we call the Hindu religion is really the eternal religion, because it is the universal religion which embraces all others. If a religion is not universal, it cannot be eternal. A narrow religion, a sectarian religion, an exclusive religion can live only for a limited time and a limited purpose. This is the one religion that can triumph over materialism by including and anticipating the discoveries of science and the speculations of philosophy. It is the one religion which impresses on mankind the closeness of God to us and embraces in its compass all the possible means by which man can approach God. It is the one religion which insists every moment on the truth which all religions acknowledge, that He is in all men and all things, and that in Him we move and have our being. It is the one religion which enables us not only to understand and believe this truth, but to realize it with every part of our being. It is the one religion which shows the world what the world is, that it is the Leela of Vasudeva. It is the one religion which shows us how we can best play our part in that Leela, its subtlest laws and its noblest rules. It is the one religion which does not separate life in any smallest detail from religion, which knows immortality is, which knows what immortality is, and has utterly removed from us the reality of death. This is the word that has been put into my mouth to speak to you today. What I intended to speak has been put away from me, and beyond what is given to me, I have nothing to say. It is only the word that is put into me that I can speak to you. That word is now finished. I spoke once before this force in me, and I said then that this movement is not a political movement, and that nationalism is not politics, but a religion, a creed, a faith. Listen to this line again. Nationalism is not politics, but nationalism is religion, a creed, a faith. I said it again today, but I put it in another way. I say no longer that nationalism is a creed, a religion, a faith. I say that it is the Sanatan Dharma, which is, for us, nationalism. This Hindu nation was born with the Sanatan Dharma. With it, it moves, and with it, it grows. When the Sanatan Dharma declines, then the nation declines. And if the Sanatan Dharma were capable of perishing, with the Sanatan Dharma, it would perish. The Sanatan Dharma, that is nationalism. This is the message that I have to speak to you.